A little bit earlier on, I recorded an interview with the wonderful Ali Wiltshire from Fiscal Business Services. Ali knows about management accounts, about how to really take care of the cash in your business so that you don't run out. If you haven't got 15 or 20 minutes spare, actually make it and spend time watching this video, because Ali's advice is absolute gold. Hope you enjoy. I do. First met Ali networking, pretty much as I met everyone else, actually years and years ago, and have really got to know her over time, and really am thrilled that she's given up some time this morning as we're recording this to come and speak to us. That did work when I pressed the button. Morning, Ali. How are you doing?
Good morning, Steph. I'm good, thank you very much. Looking forward to this.
You don't do a lot of video typically, do you? So I was really keen to talk to you, as I know you've got some really interesting things to tell people.
Yes, that's right. I think, for me, it's been very much a year of, huge change, like it has for everybody. And I think if we don't change as business owners, then we're going to be left behind. And we've just got to do whatever it takes so that we can survive. I think the biggest change for me, like Steph has said, I'd never really had a lot of video experience and really shied away from it. I had used Zoom a couple of times before the lockdown, and then hey ho, we're using it, all the time. So, I've embraced it, and, just really over time, you just get used to it. So now I just make sure that I'm, looking at the person I'm talking to, and everything else takes care of itself.
And when we last actually met in real life, which is now over a year ago, what did your business look like then? I remember the last time I came to see you, I met you at an office in Swindon, your office that you had, and I guess life and business has changed a bit over that time.
Yes, that's right, Steph. I was in, serviced offices at the Nexus Business Centre. Absolutely loved it there. But what I did was, being a management accountant, I thought to myself, don't know where things are going to change. I'd had a couple of changes to my business already, and I wasn't sure, how long this was going to go on for. Whether or not I would actually lose clients, the shape of clients. Okay, yes, I do management accounts, but some clients, they still, they've only wanted management accounts every quarter or 6 months, or some have said annually, even though I keep trying and people hear me say in networking, you need management accounts monthly. So for me, I made a decision to give up the office, also because I had a shoulder operation as well. So there was a contributing factor there. And I thought, first of all, it would just be for a few months, but I've adapted working from home. It's got its advantages and disadvantages, but I've always kept totally in the front of my mind is what is right for the business, to do. I can always go back into an office later, or I think some serviced offices will change the way they work. And I think there will be opportunities for people to do maybe hot desking, that sort of thing. So if you work from home, there's options there.
I think a lot of businesses will. I mean, we heard ages ago that Google and Twitter were investing quite heavily in shared office space themselves going forward. And I know a number of big UK businesses have done the same and have talked about hybrid working and that sort of thing. So I know that's something that we've got to get used to. Something that you've just said really interested me, because you know this about me for far too long. You've said that you shied away from doing video and stuff like that. I shied away for far too long from the numbers in my business. I always worked on the basis that as long as I could see money in the bank account, then everything must be okay. And I wasn't always good at looking even a month into the future as to what might be going out at that point. Mm-hmm. So you've said that it's important to have management accounts monthly, whereas a lot of people only ask for them quarterly or yearly. I've got my head around why that's important over the last couple of years. I've been bashed into it by my business partners, frankly. But for the sake of the people who are watching or listening, what's the real benefit of having regular management accounts in your business?
the longer you leave knowing your numbers, then it's a past tense. How can people make decisions on something that the information is so historic? Okay, it may only be a month past, but it's still historic. And what I find is quite often there's over 5 million self-employed business people in the UK. And that's a lot of businesses, and a lot of businesses fail. And I think one of the things with the pandemic, it's been very, very sad to see a lot of businesses that haven't made it, some through no fault of their own. Some, though, they haven't built up reserves. They don't know their numbers. And I think the biggest thing by having monthly management accounts is you're going to have the information kind of slap you in the face. The information is there. So you're better placed to make the decisions that you need to make. It could be that, you've overspent in certain areas. And a lot of people have direct debits that they pay month in, month out. And then, I've done it myself. I've reviewed and scrutinized everything that I'm spending money on. And I talk to my clients regularly. And out of all my clients, the ones that are surviving and the ones that are actually not just surviving, they're striving and, still building their businesses, is because they know their numbers.
I think that's it. It came to the point where no matter how much I sold, we still didn't have enough money in the bank sometimes for what came up the following month, which just leads to stress and that sort of thing. You talked about having reserves and a way that some people have sort of bought themselves a reserve over the last year or so is by getting a bounce back loan or similar. And I got an email from my bank just before the weekend to remind me that it's been almost a year now and we need to start paying that back soon. What about for all of the other businesses who've got bounce back loans, for example? What sort of financial plans should they be making now, in your opinion, as we start to slowly come out of lockdown?
It's a big one. It's the CBILS loans are exactly the same as the the bounce back loans. They're too. A lot of people have taken the money. I've had lots of conversations with people where they're saying that they're using the money. I've always said to people, don't use the money. If you've got a bounce back loan or a CBILS loan, don't use it for if you're a limited company for dividends and things like that. Hopefully people would have used that money wisely. I myself took out a bounce back loan. I've kept it in a completely separate account, and all of my clients that I've spoken to, I know that they've also done the same. But you're right, Steph, it's coming up to the time. There are a few changes on there, on the bounce back loan. They are extending 6 months, but people are going to have some decisions to make. So one of them is going to be either you pay back the loan straight away, or you can change the length of the loan from 6 to 10 years. You can make interest-only payments for the first 6 months. So that's something that's new, that's actually come out. But you can only do this, a couple of times throughout the loan, or you can pause and repay for the entire 6 months. My opinion is start paying back. Use the option of interest, only, things after 6 months. I've looked at it and I thought, right, should I pay it back in full? I've decided as a business owner, because it's very cheap money and I want to put in some capital, expenditure into the business. So look ahead. What information, what things do you want to do with your business? Now, I don't mean obviously, spending it wisely. What is going to take your business forward, and then make those decisions whether you pay back the loan. But the most important thing that I want people to take away from this, have it in the cash. It should already be in your cash flows, because with your cash flow, you're going to have your sales, your expenditure that goes, what we call the cost of sales, anything expenditure like networking charges, that sort of thing, labor, and then you have your known overheads. things like if you're VAT registered and any loans, that should already be in your cash flow, so that you know in advance of what is actually, is going to be the likelihood. Another two things I really want to point out as well. One is profit and cash flow. People really get confused, and you can be making profits but be strapped for cash. And, there's areas there. Look at your debtors, look at who owes you money. Be talking to your clients, to find out how are they doing, what you're putting in place, with your business and all of these things. Be talking to your clients, having those same conversations. And that's what I've done all throughout this pandemic. Sadly, I will lose two small clients, one that was going to be retiring anyway, and he's in the transport industry, and I've got another one that does consultancy but can't travel, and again, it's a small one, but none of us want to lose clients or lose our own business.
No, but I think, it's always, to my mind, it's always worth having that in the back of my mind, that nothing lasts forever in anyone's business, as much as we'd love to think it does. So clients do come and go over time, and you can't, you have to predict with an awful lot of honesty to yourself, don't you, that you're going to lose clients. And actually, something that I've heard too many times for it to be a coincidence over the last 6 months is that a load of people who were thinking of retiring over the next 2, 3, 5 years have sort of thought over the last year, well, if I was looking for a sign, here it is. And I think a number of people who've run businesses, particularly those badly affected by lockdown, have sort of brought their retirement plans forward as well. And the other thing is, which I meant to ask you about, is that I guess having had a year of almost no outgoings, for a lot of businesses like ours where people work from home, our outgoings might be about to jump up again. I've already been asked by a client if I can go to a face-to-face meeting a little bit later on in the year, and I've not done a face-to-face meeting for so long. That's going to mean putting petrol in the car and probably paying for a train fare and that sort of thing. So if I end up doing that a few times a month, people really ought to be calculating that their outgoings might change as lockdown ends, just as they changed as
that's right. But that's where cash flows. People should always be thinking with a cash flow, so put profits to one side at the moment, but cash flow. Look at your cash flow. I always say, look at your cash every single day. Is a good discipline. If you do it every day, it takes a few moments. So daily of where you are, weekly where you are, and monthly, and then obviously 3 months, 6 months. Do it as long as you can and filter things in. So have your sales pipeline in there, but also, like, you quite rightly say, I must admit my car's had a lovely rest after, all the traveling I've done, like a lot of people have. But yes, costs will go up, and you just need to factor it into your cash flow. Don't just go bumbling along and then hope that, with the excitement, and forget to do your accounts and your cash flow, because that's when you will get some shocks. And they're the businesses that I feel will struggle and may not survive. And also, if you've got staff, is another thing. There's things around there. Furlough is being extended. Talking to a lot of clients, there's conversations around, you've got to think honestly to yourself, using the furlough wisely, because if people, and I must admit, with my own clients, none of my clients are claiming furlough where they shouldn't be. Because if people have done those sorts of things wrong, then that will come back later on, and they could get inspected and have to pay the money back. But always know in advance. And another, coming back to management accounts very quickly, if a good management account should be putting in a provision for corporation tax if you're a limited company, or even if you're a sole trader. You want to know in advance how much you should be putting back for tax, because you need to pay these things. Deferred VAT is another one. That's coming into effect at the end of March. And I'm already saying to clients, what, have that in your cash flow. There's there's 3 options with the VAT. You can either pay, pay it completely at the end of March, any deferred VAT, or you can go on to one of their schemes and go online. And I will be putting some things out online with things to click on of where they can have these options. Because if you are going to go on the payment scheme for the deferred VAT, you do need to go online and register it. So these are things that I will be putting out because, that will help businesses. But anything that's deferred or loans, remember it's got to be paid back.
When you say you'll be putting stuff out there, you put articles out. I'm just tapping up your LinkedIn and getting it in front of me at the moment. So people can find articles that you write and that sort of thing about this sort of stuff
I'll put it out on LinkedIn and I'll put it out on Facebook as well.
I'll put when I publish this video, I'll put the links for people. So I'll put the link to your LinkedIn profile. People
Excellent.
can find you as Ali Wiltshire, and I'll put a link to your website as well. What I always realise whenever I talk to you is that one of the biggest differences that I made to my life was when I stopped pretending that I knew everything, and everything that you talk about, it's like I've got a blind spot. I know that I could learn it if I needed to, but actually the way forward for me in my business has been to have that moment of understanding where I concentrate on what I do best and leave other people to look after the money and that sort of thing. Because something that you said just then, I've always had a sales pipeline because I've been selling things professionally since 1983. But what you just said, I realised far too late in life that I didn't have an expenses pipeline. I knew what was coming in, or I knew what I could expect to come in, but I wasn't factoring in what was going out. So sometimes it would look like we were about to have a brilliant month, but I hadn't accounted for stuff going out. So until I got my head around the fact that I wasn't the right person to do that and had cleverer people than me look at it, I think I guess that's a trap that lots of business owners find themselves in. That it looks like we're having a great month on sales, and even as big as people like Woolworths, I understand were profitable, as you say, but it was actually their cash flow which knackered them. So it can happen to,
and that is
to any business.
it's a huge factor in why businesses go down. One of the things that I've one of my extra learning curves in this last year, I've come across software auto entry, and there's other things out there like Receipt Bank and all things like that. Because I've not been able to see clients face to face, because we cover bookkeeping as well as management accounts, and what has been a brilliant year for me is that I've been using this software, introducing it to my clients, and actually it's turned out cheaper for my clients because it's working more efficiently using software and is getting the information to me, and also then I haven't got to worry about collecting things and that sort of thing, but it's cheaper for the client and they get the information quicker. So sometimes, like in any field, outsourcing isn't always as expensive as we fear it could be.
No, and for me, outsourcing means that I can concentrate on the things which do bring the money into the business, which I'm arrogant enough to think that I do better. I do that bit better than anyone else in the business. But the only way I can do that is if I outsource some other stuff to people who do what they do better than me. I think that's been a big learning for me. Before we go this morning, if you had one tip for business people out there, something that with their finances, with their accounts, something which they really should be doing, what would that tip be?
I think is by looking at the way you do business, if there's anything that is not working, look it and tweak it. It doesn't mean to say it's a failure. I've been talking to many people. It's been a year of tweaking. It could be, finding a cheaper and more effective way of working, and be honest with yourself. Like you said, don't try to think that we're a master of all things, because we're not. So I think, making sure that you've got your accounts up to date, but be honest in your business because I've had people say to me, they really loved one area of their business. They've got another part of the business. They've realized all the time they're spending on one area, but it's not making them the profits as much as the other area. So I think it's a little bit of a reality check of what is working and what isn't, and speak to somebody like myself. If you've got an accountant, speak to your accountant, speak to your business advisor and other colleagues, and don't just bury your head under the sand.
And I will make absolutely sure that people know how to find you and how to speak to you, Ali, because what I know you don't do many videos, and what you've said has been absolute gold this morning. It's been absolutely invaluable, and I hope as many people as possible listen to this or watch this. It's I always enjoy chatting to you. This is, I think, the first time we've chatted together where I'm actually going to put the video out. So thank you ever so much for your time, Ali, this morning. I've really enjoyed it.
No, I've enjoyed it too, and thank you for the opportunity.